Fabio Carella to the podcast Sun&Blue. Thank you for being here. Fabio Carella, a specialist in marine spatial planning at the Department of Architecture and Art of the University of Venice. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to start having a general opinion about the maritime spatial planning. What is the biggest challenge when trying to balance agriculture and tourism within the same coastal space?
Yes, of course. So, thank you, first of all, to let me speak here and inviting me to the podcast. Maritime spatial planning, it's a quite recent discipline. So it's the intent of this discipline, it's trying to organize both spatially and temporally the activities on the sea. We have a lot of activities that are developing in the sea. And within these activities, of course, there is aquaculture and tourism, one of the biggest activities that we have, the most developed, and also one of the most impacts also on the sea. Through different tools, we can manage, of course, to mitigate potential conflict. We can also promote some synergies, of course. Through these, across these tools, I would say that one of the most effective one is that all the nation and also regional level has to implement a specific management plans. So the management plans most of the time are tools that enable somehow promotion of activities, but also helping them to mitigate and to reduce the conflict that might cause between activities, of course, but also in the sea for all the biodiversity values that we have in the sea. In this sense, of course, Europe was one of the most important area. We are considering the Mediterranean here, of course, for the Andalusia and Italy, of course. The Mediterranean is a very complex situation, is a very complex basin. But of course, once all these nations like France, Spain, Italy, they started to adopt the plan. Of course, it's important to define specific tools, specific management measures that help to support also cooperation across all these countries, but also to go more in detail, like at the local level, and helping them to promote, like defining some specific carrying capacity, for example, or promoting spatially areas where for aquaculture facilities in order to avoid potential conflict that might be caused or they were caused in the past because there were not these plans before.
Following this, actually, I have noted that you coordinated the operational phase of Italy's maritime spatial planning for the Mediterranean area. So, what lessons from that process could be valuable for other Mediterranean regions facing similar processes?
Yes, I mean, the most challenging part is, I think, that it's a very complex discipline. Because as you can imagine, we have many activities. So, and every time you are considering the activities, you consider all the actors that have been involved. So the most challenging part was, for me at least, the idea of coordinating and being the mediator between the administrational part, so we are considering ministries, of course, regions, and some coastal municipalities, but also being the voice of a bottom-up approach, so being able to involve, for example, NGOs, association like a consortium of fisheries and aquaculture, for example. So bringing all these voices, these multiple voices all together is a very complex situation, and I think this is the most challenging part of our job.
And actually, I wanted to know the importance of collaboration and to involve different stakeholders in this topic. I have noted as well that collaborative processes are key in maritime spatial planning. And what have you found to be the most effective ways to engage local communities, industry, and policymakers in shared marine governance?
I think is dedicating them the time to explain what are their needs, explain for like what is the potential, what would you like to have also, what would they like to have in terms of priorities. So what do you need is the most common question that you have to pose to them. What do you need and what's treating you now? So the idea is trying, based on these feedback and inputs from them, so listening their voices, can help you not probably to define a specific solution, but a solution can also be institutionalize a technical table, for example, giving continuity to this technical table and bring together at the same table like ministries and them. So they can somehow be in a continuation of their needs and try to explain themselves what are their needs, of course, and try also to give the power to from the policy point of view and decision making in some of these actions.
So now, looking ahead, what innovation or planning approaches do you believe will be essential for creating truly sustainable multi-use coastal zones in the next decade?
So, as I mentioned before, now countries adopted their plans, right? So all of us have a national maritime spatial planning for managing the sea. I believe that the next step, very important one, is trying to go more in detail to implement some of the action that are included in this plan. Since we have a strategy, we need to be more, not prescriptive per se, but more effective. So going at a local scale, adopting some of the measure or action that are already included in the plans, and bring also plans that are more local in order to amplify also the voice of the stakeholder.
If you could say something to involve local communities and to have like the audience to be involved in this decision and in this process to the blue economy, what would you say that it would be the first step to make it real, to turn it into real action?
Okay, yeah, it's a very complex question. I must say that what I would suggest is not seeing the administration. I'm not an administrative, I'm a researcher, right? But I know that there are most of the time some challenge and lack of trust about the administration. So, and I know that some of the organization and association at the local scale might encounter these problems, right? So what I would suggest to them, it's more like trust them or open like a dialogue with them and do not fight against and try to collaborate each other because I think in that situation both can find a real solution.
Fabio, thank you so much for your insights, for your contribution, and enjoy your stay here at the Congress and to this. Thank you for the podcast.
Thank you very much, all.